Spider-Man 2 is full of hidden details, and while you're swinging around Brooklyn, you might just stumble across an insane secret. An abandoned estate covered in graffiti that clearly hasn't been used in years. If you're a little suspicious of this place, that's because it's the X-Mansion, or what's left of it. Hopefully when Insomniac's Wolverine game drops, we'll get to learn exactly what happened here. Now, no spoilers, but once you beat Spider-Man 2's story, a tiny change happens on the map. When you visit the zoo, it's no longer empty, and the enclosure is occupied by KRAVEN'S pet tiger, Dima. And yeah, the triangle button does exactly what you're hoping for.
Oh, you're pretty cute when you're not trying to eat me.
But some details are even more heartwarming. In the southeast corner of Central Park, you can find a mural that's covered in flowers alongside this Spider-Man plush. The man in the artwork is actually a real person, Craig Goodman, a technical artist for Insomniac Games. He sadly passed away in 2019, so his co-workers decided to make this memorial to immortalize him forever. And over at Oscorp Tower, you're probably wondering what's wrong with the antenna. Now, it's a little messed up, and that's because of what happened all the way back in 2018 when Peter and Doc Ock's showdown caused it to break off. Now, once you've tracked down all of the Kraven drones and followed them to their target, you'll find yourself in this apartment. I'm not going to spoil who lives here, but I do want you to listen to the piano. If that sounds familiar, it's actually the classical song Moonlight Sonata, and it's known by most Spidey fans for being used in Web of Shadows. But one of the absolute strangest things about Spider-Man 2 has to be the product placement. Clearly they signed a deal with Adidas because you could find an entire store in Times Square, but that's not where it ends. Later in the game, Miles designs a suit for himself. Yeah, it's a bold outfit with some questionable choices, yet the true star of the show is his sneakers. Miles, who's famously known for wearing Jordans, now has on real Adidas. The craziest part is that they're actually a redesign of a $220 Spider-Man collab, so maybe these non-symbiote ones will also go on sale. And if you were wondering what they did to the Jordans in question, let's just say the Spider-Verse suit now wears Insomniac shoes. I gotta admit, it's a pretty clever way to avoid copyright. But a completely random detail lets you get around New York City in an actual vehicle. For a Spider-Man game, the last thing you'd expect is to not swing around, but you could totally hop on a bike and just cycle through the city. Probably the most random addition in the entire franchise, but I gotta admit, it's super fun. And one of my favorite side missions involves giving this blind woman a robot guide dog, and once it's complete, you can visit her at any time in Brooklyn. Just make sure you pet the dog. If you're some kind of heartless Spider-Man who attacks innocent people, you'll quickly realize that it's not even possible. Simply walk up to any NPC, hit the punch button, and something way funnier happens instead.
Oh yeah, baby!
From dancing in the street to being a fashion icon, there are so many outfits in Spider-Man 2 that it's easy to constantly switch between them. Some of us just can't make up our minds because they're all so good, but that's when Jameson starts to call you out for being indecisive.
What award show is Spider-Man hosting that he feels the need to change his outfit so frequently instead of providing any kind of meaningful assistance to the authorities?
Make sure you swing through Central Park, though, and try to eavesdrop on the crowds. One of them is a couple going on their very first date, and it's hilarious.
I'm always awkward on first dates.
Me too, but I feel like we have such a connection, you know?
Oh, great.
And once you've completed a huge mission, don't forget to check the newspaper stands around the city. The Daily Bugle will actually update its headlines based on where you are in the story, and it's such an incredible detail that no one really pays attention to. It does make sense though, just like what happens when you take damage in Spider-Man 2. The lower your health drops, the more scratched up and destroyed your suit gets. And this doesn't only work on the default outfit either. They have updated every single suit in the game to get more ripped and torn as you lose health. But one of the craziest secrets out there was never even meant to be found. If you glitch under the map, you can eventually find some tunnels, and it'll lead you all the way to a hidden sewer with a throne inside. Looks kinda unfinished, and on the back wall, you can see the disembodied head of Rhino? So that's where the poor guy ended up. Rest in peace, I guess. And you probably noticed while fighting Sandman that the rampage from this guy's opening boss battle is insane. He leaves behind a ton of sand and rubble, which you gotta clean up over dozens of hours, but luckily, you're getting some help from damage control. You can see them repairing the broken buildings, and if the name sounds familiar, it's actually a company that specializes in cleaning up after superhero fights. And I'm starting to think that Insomniac just loves their branding because everything has their logos. I mean, even the sewers are repping it. Whenever you open a manhole cover, for a split second, it, you can see Insomniac Games, which is etched in the design. But one of the coolest differences in the game is from Daredevil. Not only has Matt Murdock been evicted from his law office, Josie's bar has also received an update. In the first game, it was simply closed, and now the site has been changed to open. Although you still can't enter this place, so I'm hoping maybe in Spider-Man 3. And while we're on the topic of updated Easter eggs, the OG game had one of Stan Lee's last cameos before he passed away. He was the owner of Mick's Diner, and of course the devs are still paying tribute with a statue on the map. Simply head over to Mick's and you'll see just how big this thing is. I just personally love the hidden details on rockets though. Now we've all been caught off guard by a rogue missile while fighting, but if you take just a second to go into photo mode, you can see text saying it's guaranteed to kill spiders. The attention to detail is so impressive, and that's especially true if you wear the Raimi suit. This is a unique outfit for a huge reason. If you look at his wrist, there's no web shooters attached, and that's because Tobey Maguire's Spidey shot natural webs. And that's not the only infamous movie reference. If you go to Trinity Church in the financial district, make sure to look at the time. The clock is just frozen for some reason, stuck constantly at 1:21 p.m. Well, it turns out this is a huge detail. 1:21 is the exact time that Gwen Stacy died in the Andrew Garfield movies, and the clock tower froze in that scene as well. And I don't know how it's possible, but the Insomniac branding continues in Dr. Connor's house. On his kitchen counter, you'll find 2 coffee jars labeled Insomniac Decaf and Robust. Pretty clever considering coffee can give you insomnia. But one of my favorite things to do in these games is to simply take a stroll around New York. Half the time, civilians actually pay attention to you and will snap a bunch of pictures. You'll just be minding your own business, then suddenly overhear people complimenting you.
Spider-Man, they love you back in Jamaica.
But people were super confused when Spider-Man Remastered dropped as they visited this place and saw a cardboard sign in the window. The sign said homeless, need help, thank you, which is pretty random when you realize what was here in the first game, and in the new one it's been reverted back to the old sign revealing Alias investigations. This is Jessica Jones' detective agency, and I guess she's still holding on to the property even if she's having some hard times. For a detail you can only catch one time, make sure you don't skip out on looking around Peter's bedroom. There's a secret message in here that was left by a rogue developer. On the back of this innocent spray can, they left a ton of text, but the best part is where it calls you out for pausing the game to read it. Yo, nerd, good job. How's your day going? Good. I hope you remember you could achieve anything. Follow your dreams in like a smart way, you know? Can we use swear words in text? I guess. This is a T-rated game, right? While that's pretty silly, one of the most underrated details is how dedicated Spider-Man is to not killing people. Sure, you're literally breaking these guys' bones and half of them are gonna need reconstructive surgery, but hey, at least they're not dead, right? Well, what about if you launch enemies from skyscrapers? Simply follow their journey down and you'll spot a web shooter automatically saving their fall and catching them.
Nice.
And usually when it comes to Spider-Man movies, the suit is completely CGI, so it kind of looks like a bodysuit that's made out of one material. Although it's not exactly like this in the games. Insomniac wanted pulling the mask off to actually make sense, so if you zoom in close enough, you can make out the lines of the mask. There is no trickery here, these devs went all out. But it wouldn't be a Spider-Man game without Uncle Ben and Aunt May. They've been reunited ever since she passed and are buried at the very top of the map. You can visit them as Peter or Miles, and the devs took it a step further by adding unique dialogue for each one.
Flying solo now. Trying to earn it, Mrs. Parker.
So much to tell you, May. Harry's back. We're working together. Parker luck might be turning around.
And those were hidden details in Spider-Man 2. It's been Sammy. Keep it here on T5G.